Hello, welcome back to the James Rambling Reviews for yet another episode, and in today's episode I'm actually going to be giving you something that I don't do very often on this channel, but sort of like a re-review of Dune Part 2, as I actually watched this movie again last night, but this time I managed to watch it in the cinema, and so I'm going to give you my opinion on the movie as to if it's actually changed or not, and stuff like that, and how, instead of watching it on my TV a couple of times, what was the difference between that and then going into the cinema and watching it. Because if you didn't know, just for a bit of context, I didn't decide to, go and see Dune Part 2 when it originally first came out in the cinemas, because the first Dune movie wasn't a movie where I watched it like so many times or I was super duper obsessed with it. So that when I eventually heard about Dune Part 2 and I got around to it and then I watched the first one again, I was feeling that hype. And so there's definitely all of that, and I did really enjoy Dune Part 2, and I will link that down below. And so there's definitely all of that. So what is Dune Part 2 actually about? So if you didn't know already, it's pretty much the sequel to Dune 2021. It's this big sci-fi epic about spice production and how all this stuff with these people in the sand, they need to, start a war with each other to reign supreme, and there's all of that kind of stuff. You've got actors like Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Dave Bautista, Josh Brolin. There's all types of stars in this movie, so there's definitely that. So I will give you my rating out of 10 and everything in between there, but let's get into my thoughts on the cinematic experience, versus watching it at home. So definitely with Dune Part 2 here, having now seen it in the actual big screen last night, I think the film actually it goes from like a 9.5 to just a solid 10 out of 10 movie, because everything it really is that kind of movie where you have to see this in the cinema, because the sound effects in here are just amazing. It's got this very epic cinematic feel to it. All of the noises, the vibrations, the big overarching theme of the movie, how the characters shout. There's even certain scenes where there's characters talk. A lot of characters are talking in the background, and you can feel it through the surround sound. So everything just really plays out the way that it should. And so there's definitely that. And I do still think that, my mind hasn't changed on the movie a lot, but there is a few things I noticed when I watched this movie again, on the big screen this time around, stuff like that, is that I actually came to terms with some ideas that I wasn't very crazy about in my last couple of viewings. So see that stuff about Anya Taylor-Joy and how she has this cameo and it's left to be desired or whatever I said in the last video. Well, to be honest with you, that kind of thing doesn't bother me as much, because when I was actually in the actual cinema, I was just laser-eyed focused on this entire movie, and I suppose that's what the difference is between going to see this in the cinema versus watching it at home, is that because you're with the crowd and you're with the audience, you're experiencing it to the fullest. So you don't have a phone nearby, you're not you're not grabbing your remote and saying, it's at 2 hours and 3 minutes and 35 seconds. No, it's nothing like that. So all of that to be considered here, I think Dune Part 2 still lives up to the hype, and it still lives up to those other viewings. I think this is going to be a movie that's just going to get better and better with more time that passes. By the time that the third movie rolls around, it's going to be just an absolute amazing piece of cinema here. So there's definitely all of that. So I hope you enjoyed this kind of different review, as I don't really do re-reviews of movies. I would only really do re-reviews if I feel like it was necessary, in which case it was necessary here, because I just thought this was going to be an interesting video to talk about how, how my cinematic experience would compare to watching it at home. So yeah, so see you next time for another review on the James Rambling Reviews. I did really enjoy making this video, and so yeah, Bye.